All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Masterful Conversations podcast, where we talk about leadership from the men who have served or are currently serving as Worshipful Master in a regular lodge of free and accepted Masons. I am Brother Matthew Wagstaff, a proud past master of Eureka Lodge number 36 out of Rochester, New York. We're currently serving as our Worshipful Master is Brother Jermaine Myers. And I'm with
I am Past Master Mark Alexander of Sons of Kings Lodge number 123 out of Brooklyn, New York, where currently serving as worship master is Brother Fitzgerald Boyce II.
We both hail from the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. We're currently serving as our Grand Master is most worshipful, Reverend Dr. Darren M. Morton as our Grand Master. And so before we get into the introduction of our guest this day, we do have a quick disclaimer.
The information on this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes. The views and opinions expressed do not represent any Masonic Lodge or Grand Lodge. They are our own. If you have any questions, please consult the particular offices in your own jurisdictions.
Absolutely. And also, before we introduce our guest this evening or this afternoon, we do have an announcement, a couple announcements. Sons of Kings has an anniversary coming up.
Oh
Anything?
no, it just passed. Yeah. Actually it was yesterday. Sons of Kings, we celebrate 20 years of a chartered lodge, September 10th, 2024. So congratulations to us. I had the honor of being here for 10 of those 20. So definitely was a good ride, and we continue to look forward to being 20 more and 100 more.
Definitely.
Thanks for that.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thanks a lot for that.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that.
Congratulations, Sons of Kings, putting in that good work out there for sure. Absolutely. So we have the pleasure of having on our show this day past master Patrick Freeman from St. John's Lodge number 16 out of Buffalo, New York, the mother lodge of the 7th district and the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. We're definitely happy to have you here today, Past Master Freeman. And so Past Master Freeman served as worshipful master for 3 years from 2002 to 2004, and then also served as district deputy grand master for the years 2004 through 2009. And I believe you're also emeritus in that regard as well. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. I received the Emeritus in 2014.
Absolutely. So congratulations for that. And
Thank you.
Past Master Freeman is also received the last and final degree of the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite, 33rd degree. So congratulations as well to that. So, welcome to the Masterful Conversations podcast, Past Master Freeman.
Hey, thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be with you here today. You're one of my favorite people.
Oh, appreciate you, brother. It's been you were the master and then the district deputy grand master when I came into the craft as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 21-year-old 20 years ago.
Yeah,
So,
I remember you guys brought some real positive energy. It was a whole group of you, and you've all done good work in the craft, and I'm very proud of you.
thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. So, our podcast is about leadership, and really through the lens of the men who have served in the East. And so our first question, is really about understanding your journey. So tell us a little bit about when you, became a Master Mason, like what year was that? And then,
Wow.
and then how did you prepare yourself, to become Worshipful Master in 2002?
Well, like so many, I followed my dad, who came into um, St. John's Lodge in 1973, and my brother, who came in 1993. He was the one that recommended me for the lodge after my father was exalted to the degree of ancestor in 1993. And I was just after witnessing the Masonic funeral and past Master Banks, if you remember him. He was probably the most eloquent Mason I've ever seen. And I wish we had videotaped some of his work. And after he did the consistory funeral, I made up my mind I wanted to be a Prince Hall Mason. And at that time, I made application to St. John's Lodge. And in 1994, I think it was the spring of 94, I became an entered apprentice, passed the degree of fellowcraft, and became a master mason in August of 1994, and it's been 30 years. And
Mm.
a lot of my classmates are no longer with me. A few are still with us, T.L. Pickens, Otis Barker. But it's been a pleasure and an honor to be a Prince Hall Mason. And it was probably one of the best decisions of my life. I have no regrets about that whatsoever. And, you know, there are ups and downs during your tenure, but you always try to be the best person that you can be. And even if that's just living by example. And if I can do that and motivate young men like yourselves to continue our work and to do our work properly, we can continue this great craft and continue our great work.
Definitely. I just remember, you know, again, being super young, coming into craft, seeing you in a leadership position there, and just was in awe in terms of all the men, you know, past Master Banks being being the dean of the class, those two men really setting the stage. Past Master Banks being from your lodge, and really is the reason why I really take to the lecture as much as I do to this day, and take to the degrees, the ritual work as much as I do today. So let's talk a little bit about, so from 1994 to 2002, there's a journey that's happening there. Can you talk a little bit about what sparked your interest into the East, and then sort of how you prepared yourself for that?
Well, Past Master Mull was the worshipful master when I came in. And one thing about Past Master Mull, he's right, worshipful Mull is proper, but he could do every degree.
Mm-hmm.
He could do the funeral. He could open and close his lodge. And I felt it was important that as I began my journey, that I was able to be proficient as to the best of my ability in everything that I could do along the way. But at the same time, you are there to labor. And I became the senior deacon within 4 weeks
Mm.
of being raised a master mason.
Mm.
And we had a brother named Calvin Cooper. Calvin Cooper was from Mississippi, but he never gave up his mother lodge. He was under watch care to St. John's, and he passed away. And the senior warden couldn't make the funeral. So Mo handed me his ritual and said, "You got 3 days to learn the senior warden part." I said, "What?" So I looked at it. I said, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." So we got to the funeral. Man, this is the biggest Masonic funeral I've ever seen in my life. Cooper belonged to every house.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people here from Canada. There were people here from all over the country. And it was packed. And you know, he belonged to every house. We were the last, you know, the Blue House is the last funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And we got up there, and man, I was rolling. You know, I was in the midst of life. We are in death, of whom we may seek succor, but of the Lord. I was rolling, you know. Got to the second part. Our life is but a span long. The days of our pilgrimage are few and full of evil.
You still remember it?
Yeah,
I
remember
like
that's
it.
the
Yeah,
book.
let's
yeah,
go.
Exactly.
Let's
Rocking.
go.
You know, I got to the last part, and I was, you know, everybody's looking at me. Chest is sticking. This is the first time I've ever done anything publicly. And all of a sudden, my mind went blank. And I nudged past Master Civilian, who has since passed away. He was doing the junior warden. I said, "Brother, give me a word. Give me a word." So he gave me a word, and I got through it. But that was probably the most memorable event of my early Masonic career.
Mm.
And I thought I was on a roll too. And I was just looking through the audience. You know, I was still single then. The ladies were looking at me, and I was like, "Uh-oh." I can't remember this last part.
Yeah.
So he figured out where I was, gave me a word, and I got through it. But those are things you remember. And as senior deacon, we had a degree team that tried to help the smaller lodges do degrees proficiently, and eventually that kind of broke up. But I had a good time being a senior deacon, and eventually it led to me moving to the South. And as you know, junior warden is no fun. I mean, it's just something you got to live through, do the work. But, I got through my year, and the worshipful master was Right Worshipful Robert Grice when I was junior warden. And we were having a conversation. He said, "Yeah, I might go back next year." I said, "Well, you better find you another junior warden because I'm not doing this again." So he decided to come out, and I moved over to senior warden, and James Richardson was worshipful master, and he served 1 year. And then when I went to the East, I just wanted to have an ambitious trestle board. The lodge needed a lot of work, so we renovated the lodge, dropped the ceiling, new carpet, and one of my favorite past masters was Clarence Jackson. And I was all into the ritual, but Clarence Jackson and if you remember past master Willard Morris, they said you better learn that Constitution because you can't run no lodge with no ritual. I mean, you can open it, you can close it, but to run your lodge, you better know that Constitution. So I started really digging into the Constitution, and I had a good relationship with then past Grand Master Calvin Martin, and the then District Deputy Grand Master was Charles Davis, if you remember.
Oh yeah. And it was short
yeah,
Charles.
Yeah, short Charles. He was a good man.
Yes.
He passed away, and eventually I got a call. I came out of the East after my third year, and the late past master Johnny T. Ray, who was since passed on too, he went to the East, and the next thing I know, I got a call to be the district deputy grand master. I said, "Wow, okay." So I enjoyed both. Both tenures were very, very enjoyable. I mean, there were some challenges, as you know, to anything you do in any leadership position. But masonry is such a beautiful craft and fraternity that I cannot tell you how proud I was to serve in both positions, and still today, that I enjoy my tenure, I enjoy my service, no matter what happened. And I believe I tried to do my best for the craft at every level. One of the achievements that we did when I first came in as deputy, as you know, Electric City was in a huge debt to Grand Lodge. And I said, every year we go to Grand Lodge, I hear about one of our lodges in debt. And I said, you know what? If every brother gave $5, we can try to help get this lodge out of debt. And we got Electric City out of debt within a couple of months. We went down to mid-year, paid their balance, and got Electric City out of debt. They have not been in debt since. And that was over 20 years ago. We also, with that thought in mind, we collected money and donated it to the athletics program of the city of Buffalo. We went down there 100 strong, dressed in black suits, and handed a check to the Board of Education on behalf of Prince Hall Masonry to help our young people. And those are things that I think get lost in the process. And I kind of pissed off a lot of the other district deputy grand masters because I took pride in my yearly report. And I made the yearly report a report of the district. Every past master that died, every brother that died in the district. I took every yearly report from all 6 lodges and I combined that into a district report.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I don't know if they're still doing that, but I always knew how many past masters we had in the district each and every year that I served. And I took a lot of pride in doing that. And Prince Hall Day, we always had huge numbers at Prince Hall Day and St. John's Day. And we supported the sisters on their Thanksgiving Day
Thanksgiving service.
service.
Yeah.
And
How do you think that came about? I mean, like that level of commitment back then. Like how do you think, did you do anything when you were as a warden or when you came in the craft that made the men or did they already just have it in them at that time? Was it just the brotherhood at that time was just they were just into masonry more?
I just think we had to live by example. Somewhere along the line, there have been some missteps, which happens. But Banks, Right Worshipful Banks would always tell me that masonry was here before you, it's here with you, and it's going to be here after you. Now we got to figure out how to get it back to being the way that it should be. And on the state level, there were some miscues in New York State, and we have to deal with that. I mean, some of leadership needs to look at itself. I mean, you haven't elected a person from the 7th district since 1974. That's not fair.
Mm.
I ran for junior grand warden. The only votes I got were the number of people registered from the 7th district twice. Then I just lost interest.
Mm.
And that's when I started the stadium project here. I said, I can still lead by example outside of the lodge if you don't want me as a leader in the lodge. And since then, we've had a couple of other people run for office from the 7th district, and they've lost. But New York State Grand Lodge on the other side, they go up and down, you know, they go downstate, upstate, share power. But we on our side, on the Prince Hall side, we refuse to share power. And brother, you from Brooklyn, you could fit our district in Brooklyn 80 times. You know that. We will never beat New York City in an election. So something has to be done. I spoke to, after the last time I lost, I was really disappointed because I felt I was by far, I always feel I'm the best candidate. I think I would have done an outstanding job as a Grand Master, given all respect to my classmates that served. But I also feel that I would have done a good job. But he told me something needs to be done because we have not elected a Grand Master from the 7th district since McGarrah. And McGarrah was elected in 74, 75. The closest we got was Charles Burt. Charles lost by 5 votes. We had 117 people registered, but we still couldn't get him over the hump. And that was one of my bigger disappointments, not electing Right Worshipful Burt, because he was a good man. He could have traveled down to New York. He always does. He's been on the credential committee forever.
Yeah, he's still active. Like I see him every time we have grand session. He's there.
Yeah, so he lost by 5 votes to Dwayne Walker that year. And Dwayne and I are good, but you know, I supported Charles in that election. And it's just that's been one of the bigger disappointments, is why we are a brotherhood that we are not sharing in leadership around the state. And I've always felt that, you know, the 7th district is starting to feel like an auxiliary to New York City.
Well, I would love to really have that conversation with you, because I was just thinking about that on my own. But just real quick on that, because I'm like a brother on Facebook posted something towards that, not in our jurisdiction, but another jurisdiction, where it really shouldn't be about district politics. It should be about electing the best person.
Exactly.
Overall. You know what I mean? So that's one of the issues that we need to probably just work out. overall and to fix that. But I would definitely love to have that discussion with you because I just want the best person. I don't care where
Right. And I visited every district.
Yeah.
I went to all their meetings. But that being said, most places are going to, you're going to vote with your own people.
Yeah.
So what can be done to share this awesome responsibility? And it's an awesome responsibility, but it seems that you're only electing the New York City area people, and you and I both know the first district can elect anybody they want to.
So
let's move on from that. Exactly.
Yeah,
let's move on for that.
So
let's
flip it back to let's flip it back to leadership for a second here. So let's talk about like your St. John's for a second here. When you became master in St. John's, tell us a little bit about, so we can capture that history a little bit. How many brothers were in St. John's at the time that you became master in 2002, roughly? If you remember roughly how many brothers were on the rolls?
122.
122 brothers were on the rolls at that time?
Yes, sir.
And then, what type of, how did you, when you were a warden, what were some of the things that you were doing? So imagine that there's a senior warden right now listening to this show. There's a junior warden listening to this show right now, or even a senior deacon listening to this show right now. What were some of the things that you were doing to get you prepared so that you could have a successful 3 years, or a successful 1 year, your first year as Worshipful Master?
Well, just making sure that we were doing the things, because, like Eureka, we have a building. So you have a huge responsibility. And there's some days I had to mow the grass. You know what I'm saying? Well, it needed to be cut. Nobody was there to do it. And I had to do it. I mean, those are things that happen. You had to do the things necessary to keep your lodge going. But at the same time, I'll tell you this, and I've tried to tell this to my successors. I was Worshipful Master for 3 years. I only dropped 3 brothers. 3. And the late past Master William West stood up in lodge meeting and told me, Worshipful Master, I want to congratulate you for making sure you have made an effort to make sure that we have all of our brothers current in their dues obligation to this lodge. And that is the duty of the master. And you prepare for that duty as a junior and senior warden, sometimes looking at the deficiencies of those that are ahead of you. See, why are we dropping all these brothers from the rolls? Now, since I have left office, St. John's rolls are down to about 60. And I told everyone, I said, you got to go collect that dues. I used to go to some of these houses myself. I said, you need me to stop by, brother? I'm coming. And then I would write letters. I called them fraternal reminders. Brother, just want to reach out to you, see how you're doing. By the way, you do need to pay this. And you know what?
The fraternal reminder was the important part.
Yes, sir. And most times
that was the important part.
We had a lot of businessmen that did not know that they owed money or they needed that reminder. They would pay that money. And I tried to tell that to those that followed my footsteps, that you have really got to be on your job as master. And it's one of the best times of your life, which it takes you about a year to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you've gotten in the groove. It's election night. You know?
Yep.
And I stayed an extra 2 years to make sure that I tried to stabilize the lodge. I balanced our budget. And when I say balance the budget, I mean, a lot of times masters take dues. They take the whole amount, put it in the general fund, pay bills, do whatever else you're going to do. What I did what we were supposed to do. You take the part that goes in your general fund, the other part goes in the escrow fund to pay your Grand Lodge taxes. And I balanced that for 2 years. I thought that was one of my best financial achievements to be able to do that. And also, we expanded our expansion fund. And we also had a $10,000 CD, and I never touched it. And we always had that as our safety mark. And that CD was founded in the 70s by the late past master Charlie H. Fisher Jr., who is the current Worshipful Master's father.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things that I enjoyed doing. And the greatest friendship I've ever had in my lifetime and in Masonry was Hugh D. Dougal. And we both served as deputy together, and we always made sure we were on the same page. We argue on the phone, but when we stepped out in public, we walked together.
Mm-hmm.
And we never, ever, ever went against each other in public. On the phone, we had some dog out fights. I'd accuse him of trying to do this to me, and I love you, brother, and one of those type things. But
he ain't going down easy. Dougal not going down easy.
No. And we had a good time. And I think Masonry is such a beautiful thing. It's got some challenging parts to it, but right now I think Masonry is moving towards a comeback because of brothers like yourself. You're bringing a great spirit, you're doing a great work, and you're moving into the 21st century by creating mediums like this to communicate what we're communicating tonight.
Let me ask you a quick question. So I know, like, you didn't want to serve as junior warden more than 1 year. Did you have the same junior warden for those 3 years?
I had 3 different junior wardens.
There you go. All right, so it was no
and
hypocritical thing there.
And it wasn't, and they never moved on, unfortunately. And
okay.
Good men, but were unable to do the job.
Okay.
And the lodge looks at you closely as junior warden, and they weren't going to allow them to move on. So I had 3 different junior wardens for 3 different years. Only one of them ever became a master. And it's unfortunate, but you have to do your time in the South. I do think we can do some things to make that experience better. And I used to tell them, you're not going to attract the best men and tell them that, I'm third in line to be master, but I'm also in charge of cleaning chicken and fish. Even though those are things you got to do to pay bills, but there are other things that we can do. You can put on comedy shows, and we did the math. You could do 1 fundraiser a year that's worthwhile, rather than kill a man who's trying to work full time, take care of his family, and then you want him to run a chicken dinner for 12 hours once a week or twice a month. Those are things I think we need to think about as men and members of this craft to make our craft more attractive to young men like yourself with the technical skills that you have, so that we can keep progressing as good Masons.
One other thing you did mention, you were just talking about those phone conversations with Dougal, when y'all had that intense conversations and dogged fights. That's really important.
Yes, sir.
It's important that when you have this disagreements with your brother, that you actually discuss it with that brother.
Yes,
and
sir.
Talk it with that brother. That's one of the major issues that we're having, I see in the craft today. That I was actually talking with one of the senior past masters of a lodge recently, and I asked him about, like his lodge and like, are they having no discussions? He said no. And that's the issue. That's going to separate a lodge in a second.
Yes.
Brothers need to talk those things out. Don't talk with somebody else about what's happening. Even if you got to have a mediator between y'all need to talk about those things and work it out like a family would do, so y'all come back together and love each other and move on. But if you don't, it festers, and then the environment feels funny, then people don't want to be around it, and then the lodge is going to fall apart slowly
Right.
but surely. So
Absolutely.
that's very important to do.
Absolutely, brother.
It's good to see that, to show that District Deputy Grand Masters is having that as an example for the younger brothers in the craft. So brothers listening, please do that. I know one of the top questions that we have on this show is, what is effective leadership in your eyes? So what do you see as effective leadership?
I think just being able to listen and to treat men as men and never forget that. Even when you're given that gavel of authority or you're put in leadership position of any kind in the craft, you have to treat people as the way you would want to be treated yourself. And never try to degrade or belittle another man or a woman. I just don't think that's right. And I've always tried to carry myself with that type of respectful dignity and to keep myself on the level and, guard your reputation as you guard your brother's reputation. Those things are important. But there's been some changes in the craft that have led to, hey, we need to make some adjustments. And I don't think we've made those adjustments in a timely fashion. And we need to do that. Respect for one another. I think that's where it has to first start, is respect for one another. And take seriously our work. Know your work. You ask the question, what came you here to do? I can ask some brothers that, they look at me like, what? What came you here to do? To learn, to subdue my passions and improve myself in masonry. So you are a Mason, I assume?
Let's don't go through the whole thing, because this is on a public conversation. So
they'll
go too hard.
They
don't know we.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
Google.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, though, I think the fact that you talked about competency, like knowing your work, you talked about that really that trust building, like the fact that when you build that respect amongst each other, having those tough conversations actually builds that respect too. Once if I know I can have a conversation with somebody, we could disagree and still be good afterwards. I build trust with that brother, or that person, whoever that brother or sister. And so, trust and competency are huge in developing leadership, which is about influence. And so, as you were going through your 3 years in the East, were there certain years where you felt like you showed up as that effective leader more so than others? And are there any examples where you could call out where you were, as you were going through your leadership journey, or do you feel like you kind of had the same leadership trajectory the whole 3 years?
It was 3 great years. I had a ball, man. It went by so quick, and it was a lot of work, but it went by so quick, and I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed being Master of the Lodge. I don't think there is a higher honor in Masonry than when you are elected Master of the Lodge. It is one of the greatest honors I have ever had. And I took it seriously. And I tried to do the best work that I could to uplift my lodge, maintain its roles, and follow the Constitution of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. I stayed in touch with my deputy to make sure that we were on the same page. At that time, it was Dougal and Right Worshipful Winford Lucas. And I made sure that I stayed in touch with them. I made sure also that Dougal did one of the finest things he could have ever done for me as a master. He handed me the protocol book of the Eastern Star. He said, I want you to look at that. So you make sure you're doing the right things. And you know their protocols, so you don't have to make those mistakes. So many brothers make those mistakes because they're not familiar with those protocols. He also gave me the protocol book for the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge. And most people don't really read those things. And you have to learn your work, and it's a lot. And you take a little bit of a time and you combine it and learn how to carry yourself and also do your programming. Most brothers don't look at how to set up a head table. I mean, there's a protocol for that. Most brothers don't realize that a worshipful master is not the one that should be introducing the worthy matron. He should hand that to the worthy patron to introduce the worthy matron. See, those are all part of our work. And you're not going to learn those things unless you go to class, learn your work, or have somebody help guide you. And Hugh D. Dougal is one of the finest men I have ever met in my life. And we stay in touch every day. There's not a day goes by that I don't call Dougal and tell him off every day.
Yes, yes. Shout out to honorary past Grandmaster Hugh Dougal from Eureka Lodge number 36.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And he tell him he owes me part of that past Grandmaster title because I think he worked his tail off with me, and he got it, and I'm so happy for him. And no, he doesn't owe me anything. And we were so close, brother, that Dougal is my daughter's godfather. That's how close we worked.
Nice.
And my daughter was born in 2002, my first year as worshipful master.
That's funny. So Madison is the same. So the same age as Madison. Then my
Around
daughter.
the same age.
Yeah.
Remember?
Wow.
Yeah, my son too, Shamal.
Oh my gosh.
I think we used to run into each other at George Blackman's school, right? Didn't she go there for a while?
Off of Maine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes, sir. They're around the same age. Yeah.
So I know when you were just talking about what you came here to do and then improve yourself, do you feel that as worship master to help improve yourself as a man in general? If so, and if you do, how so?
Can you say that again?
How did being worship master improve you as a man in general?
Well, when you look at such a role in the lodge and how you came in and everything about this sacred position, that those who have not entered into that position must leave the room when you're installed and then come back. It is such a position that only those that know its secrets can share with each other. That, yes, it improved me as a man to do the work of a master, to open that lodge and close it with dignity and honor. That made me a better person. Because yes, it's a ritual. It's something that you do the same way each time over and over again. But those words in between you doing it, if you examine them, it makes you a better person. And I truly believe achieving the office of worshipful master, I hope I did good for the lodge and the craft, but it certainly did good for me to serve in that capacity.
Outstanding. That's good to hear. As Matthew closes the show with, he says, in order to be a leader, you got to lead yourself first. So as worship master, if you're trying to improve, in masonry, you should be improving yourself too. That was the reason why I brought up that question.
Yes,
thank you.
sir.
That was definitely a good example and a great answer.
Yeah. That's Mr. Freeman. I'm thinking of you got 3 years there, and usually folks will say they had a progression where they kind of learn from the years. You said you had 3 great years. You talked a little bit about some of the things that you did in terms of the building work that you did and how proficient you were in your work there. Can you talk a little bit about now, after you got out of the seat? If you can recall back to 2005 or 2006, when you left the seat and you handed that gavel over to the next man, how did you show up as a leader, as a past master? And how was that different or similar to when you were in the East?
Well, I had to be there for Johnny because what sense does it make you handing the gavel to your senior warden? And Johnny supported me 150%. 150%. And may rest in peace, I miss him dearly. But when I handed him the gavel, it was an honor. But by handing him the gavel, I didn't disappear. I was still there for wise counsel. Matter of fact, I ended up chairing our 140th anniversary, made sure that that was a successful function for the lodge. And he had a very successful year. He only stayed 1 year, and he went on. And man, one of the saddest days is when he transitioned, because he kept telling me, my brothers and sisters, every time we turn 70, we pass away. And Johnny had turned 70, and he was worried. He said, I, I think I'm gonna pass away. And
Mm,
I said, no, man, you're not gonna pass away. Within 6 months, he transitioned.
wow. Say his whole name
And
for us, please,
Johnny T. Ray.
just so we can keep it
Oh
in
man.
our lives.
And his wife is a beautiful person. Joyce Bush Ray. She was, I think she was a lecturer on the Eastern Star side, and just a good family. And Johnny was one of the best men I've ever served with. And he was my senior warden.
Mhm.
And I thought I owed it to him to be there for him. And that I gave to him, he was there for his successor. And I think that's the way it has to keep going. So many times you get a master falls out with the craft and the lodge that year. And when he leaves the East, he leaves the lodge. We
Mhm.
can't have, that's just something that can't happen. I think
No,
you owe it to your lodge and your successor to be there for them that year as their first wise counsel.
definitely. I think me and you both, Mark, are we both serving as secretary right now? Are you still serving as secretary? Or
No,
you,
I didn't go back as secretary.
you
I
remember?
was secretary before I was master.
Oh, got you,
So,
got you. Okay. So I know we busy now. We still very busy
yeah,
in the craft as past masters,
I'm correspondence secretary, so I just send out emails and make sure everybody aware of stuff.
which is super important, which is very, very important.
Right.
For sure. For sure. Cool. Past Master Freeman, you talked about some of the folks I'm presuming were mentors to you and friends in the craft. We also asked for any other mentors in masonry that you had, either as you were going up the line or even after you came out of the East.
Well, I would say Charles Woods
Mm.
had to be one of the finest men I've ever met in my life.
Master Craftsman 110?
No, Paramount
Paramount,
73.
Paramount, Paramount. Yes, okay, got you.
Yeah. He was just a good
Mm.
man.
Yeah.
And that's Kermit Petty's uncle.
Yes, yes. I don't know why I
And
keep connecting him to Master Craftsman. Every time I think about Woods, I think of Master Craftsman, but Paramount, yes.
and Kermit Petty, uh, Gaston Custer III, Gaston Custer, his father, Gaston Custer Jr. Even though we argued all the time, but we loved each other. I
Yeah,
mean, it
88,
was
Ionic 88. Yep.
yeah. Thomas Frazier,
Mhm.
Donald Howard. He and I went into all the upper houses together. Judge Robert Russell,
Okay.
just good men that you came into the craft, you came into the shrine together, and you learned your work together, and some of them have gone on to glory, and I miss them. And we're here to continue their labor until our day is called, and that's most important. And my favorite, like I told you before, is Hugh D. Dougal. I mean, we still talk to each other every day, and he's just one of the finest men I've ever met. Now he was given the title of honorary past Grand Master, and there's no other person I know that deserved it more, other than myself, of course. But that's another story. I'm always going to campaign, but no, I just enjoyed it, brother. I mean, wherever you land in masonry, and I used to enjoy going to Grand Lodge. I haven't been in a few years because where could you see so many black men in one place?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that was always a sense of pride. And I don't want to make it seem like it's only, you know, we have more than just black men. We have all colors in masonry, and it's only one race on the earth, and that is the human race. But where could you go and see that many men together of all nationalities, bound together by a common tie? And that common tie is in our work, and we know our work. Loyalty to country. That's why I wrote that article. That's a huge part of masonry, is loyalty to country and spirit. And that spirit has to be in the lodge. It has to be in order for the lodge to progress. But as you know, we're all human and mistakes happen, but also entities come into the lodge that should not have been allowed in the lodge. So we've got to do a better job of screening who we allow into our craft.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is important. And then when I mean screening, it's not to say, oh, no, you can't come in or whatever. Screening means that, do you understand what you're joining? We're not a social club. We're a fraternity bound together by certain rules, regulations. We have a light that we follow, which we call the Great Light. And I think we have to start looking at things that way, and not to try to keep people out, but to try to make sure that the people we are bringing in understands their duty and conformity to the ways of Prince Hall Masonry. And I don't know if that's still being done, but we've had some problems in the craft over the years of people not doing that, and it's caused rifts to start. Like each year you go to Grand Lodge, you look for certain people, right? All of a sudden those people aren't there. You wonder, did they pass away? Did something happen? Nah, he got mad, he ain't coming back.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean, you know, part of leadership is that everybody is not going to like you.
right.
Everybody will not agree with you. And at the same time, you still have to do what's best for the greater cause. And so even though your best friend may fall out with you because of a decision you may need to make for the greater cause of everyone else, for the betterment of everyone else, that's sort of the price of leadership sometimes. And I think that men may lose sight of that this is not a popularity contest. It's about what's at the organization's best interest. And we're gonna have to make decisions as leaders that may not be the most popular, but are the most needed.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, you might have to bring a brother up on charges.
We honestly need to do that more.
Yeah. And if it happens, you're supposed, you know our rules. You know what conduct you should have and you should not be doing. And you expect me to turn my head because you might be offended? I had to lift the collar by order of past Grand Master Bernard L. Holly of a worshipful master that I love to this day. And I told him, this is not something I look forward to doing, but I am so commanded by the order of Most Worshipful Grand Master Bernard L. Holly to lift your collar. And you will be, I had to put him on indefinite suspension by the order of the Grand Master. And I said, I still love you, brother. And I promise you that when this thing that you're dealing with is over, that I will petition on your behalf to be reinstated. That's what I told him.
Mm-hmm.
And I did do that. When it was cleared up, I will not mention any names.
Yeah.
But when it was cleared up, I went and I petitioned on his behalf and he was reinstated.
Yeah. I mean, that's good friendship. I mean, first of all, you follow his leadership in terms that you were able to follow. Right. So you were able to follow lead, you were able to follow command. You were able to do something that was uncomfortable, but you trusting that the leadership above you has a reason why they're making this decision and follow through with it. And then you also were able to follow up with what you said you would do. You were able to hold the integrity of your word at the afterwards. So, you know, accountability, integrity, being able to be a follower in those spaces, those are three characteristics, I believe, of leadership.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sure. And I think that's important. I think we have to understand that. And we know our rules when we came in. They give us all the books and everything else. And you know that you're supposed to conduct yourself in a certain way. And we have to protect our craft at all costs. And if a brother does not do as he's supposed to do and does something wrong, it needs to be brought to his attention in the kindest manner that one can. You don't have to just cuss a brother out.
Most tender manner.
Most tender manner, exactly. Most tender manner. That's our duty as Master Masons in general. Sir. You don't got to be the leader. That's our duty to each other as Master Masons. 100%.
And the Master reminds us of that in the closing charge, doesn't he? Before you leave that room.
Every time. Yeah, every time.
Before you leave that room.
And if you look at the history, well, generally, if you pick up the history book for our Scottish Rite jurisdiction, Northern jurisdiction, Prince Hall affiliated, you'll see many more instances of brothers being held accountable of their actions, you know, on all different levels, in which said we really need to get back to that. And that's a lot of that still comes, like I said, on the Master Masons, was having those uncomfortable conversations with each other when things happen. And then as leaders, we need to do the same, to be the example, as you explained before, and also to make sure that, you know, the organization isn't going to fall apart because we got bad apples and letting them run around and do whatever. I can give an exact example on my own job where it seems like the bad employees are, I ain't gonna say rubbing off, because if you see the bad employees getting away with everything, it kind of turns off the good employees.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's like, why am I doing all this? So it's the same thing in the craft. You see all the bad brothers doing whatever. I'm gonna say, excuse me, like bad brothers, but brothers misbehaving and doing all types of stuff. The brothers that's really working, they like, all right, why am I doing all this?
Right, exactly. Exactly. Yes, sir. Yes,
you know?
Sir.
So that's something that we definitely need to address and handle. Matt, you have any more questions?
Yeah, the last question that we like to ask is sort of a hypothetical usually. And so if you were to go back into the East in St. John's Lodge in 2025, knowing what you know now about your lodge, about yourself, and the state of the craft, what's one or two things that you will focus on as Worshipful Master of St. John Lodge number 16 in the year 2025?
Well, I'm a little disappointed in the numbers because when I left, I told you there's 122 members. I think St. John's is down to 60. And that to me is a huge disappointment for the Mother Lodge of this district. And we are not making and we're not retaining good men like yourself. I can name off the top of my head 10, 15 young men that aren't participating in lodge activities because somebody rubbed them the wrong way, or they took something the wrong way. And the master, his job is to go search and find his master masons. That's what the beehive symbolizes. Am I right? The beehive is where all the worker bees are. But the master, it's his responsibility to go find his workers. And we're just not doing that. And if I did go back, I need to go find them. And I'm not saying the current master is not doing that or not. I'm sure he is making an effort. But we need to go back and get those young men that came of their own volition and joined this craft, free men. And where are they? Being a man, freeborn, and lawfully recommended. See, I still had that little senior deacon, right? So I think that's been my disappointment. That why are we leaving the lodge? You can't do anything without the Blue House. And the Blue House must be the foundation. And I love St. John's Lodge. I told him, even if you don't see me, the master will never have to look or search for my integrity and my commitment to this lodge. Not ever. And that's something that you have to live by example. So I've done that in the business world. I've done that in what I do outside of the lodge. But there is no prouder moment for me than the day I was elected master of the lodge. It's one of the proudest moments of my life.
Mm-hmm. So
even more so than getting the 33rd degree. That was a proud moment. No question about that. It is an achievement within itself. But the master of the lodge is probably the greatest moment of my life. Mm-hmm. To wear that top hat. When you got that top hat on in the room, you the only one got a hat on.
Mm-hmm. Better be.
Let me tell you something, Brother Alexander. Tell past master Wagstaff. Mm-hmm. When you go to the Supreme Council, who's the last person come in that room?
Yeah, the sovereign great commander.
He ain't got no crown on him. It's the Grand Master of that jurisdiction.
Grand Master of the state. Yeah, Grand
yes,
Master
sir.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting next to the sovereign Grand Commander in equal juxtaposition of each other. Because if he was to stand up and say, every Master Mason leave this room, you'd have an empty room.
Or as has been done, he could say, I don't want y'all to meet in my state. Get out of here. And it happened before.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So it sounds like it's safe to say that if you were to go back as Worshipful Master in 2025, you would spend the majority of that year seeking out those men who have strayed away from the lodge.
Yes, sir.
And seeking to bring them back into the fold.
Yes, sir.
Seek out the wanderer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
That's like those the theme of your year.
Lost their way.
Yes, sir.
That their compasses have circumscribed them to other places outside of their home. Mm-hmm. So
that installation charge is beautiful. That master installation charge, like even if you aren't a master, you got to read the installation charge to the master. It's public. I mean, you can go read it, even if you're not in Worshipful Master.
Yes, sir.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that is definitely. You need to pay attention to those installations.
Yeah, I think people need to get back to that, and you've got to go back and find those stray members that have left that beehive. Where are your workers? They've gone out and have left their home. We got to bring them back home because there's enough of them out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need to do that.
For
Very
sure.
much so.
Sure.
Past Master Freeman, definitely been a pleasure having you on our show this evening. You have left us with plenty of things to think about and to inculcate in our lives as brothers and as men in general. Things and stuff, especially as, and most importantly, as a master, to run your lodge, you have to know your constitution and bylaws.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
brothers always stress the ritual, but in order to run the lodge, and I
Yes,
never
sir.
really heard that way, which is very important. I always talk about the importance of the Constitution, but I never heard that way. But I'm gonna run with that. In order
Yes, sir.
to
Yes,
run
sir.
the lodge, you gotta know your Constitution and bylaws, or
Yes,
you're gonna
sir.
get run away by your past master.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
In order to we need definitely open and honest conversation with your brothers. That's something that you need as a leader and as brothers in order to keep your lodge healthy. You have to listen to your members. You have to treat your members as men, and you have to we have to in general protect the West Gate and screen the brothers that we coming in and making sure they know what they're supposed to know. I mean, it is 2024. Men should not come into masonry not knowing about what is masonry at all. You know what I mean? There's too many ways, too many books. Not saying that you will know all about masonry and anything about it, but you can learn the history. You shouldn't be seeking Prince Hall masonry and not knowing nothing about who Prince Hall is.
Right.
Things
right.
like that. So we definitely thank you for those tidbits, and we will add them into our bag.
Yes, yes, yes. We got a big bag of wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. Big bag of
past
wisdom.
masters.
Yeah.
Yes,
Magical bag.
yes.
Well,
Definitely.
thank you for having me on with you both. Very proud of the work that you're doing. And Past Master Wagstaff, it is an honor to call you by that name. And
Thank you, brother.
You serve well as lecturer. Make sure that they know their work.
Absolutely. Thank you, my
And
brother.
you remember
Appreciate it.
Banks would go to every class, not one class,
Well,
every class. And I don't know
listen.
if you could do that.
Listen,
But-
listen. We had our class in 2004. I know this is a tangent here on the Masterful Conversation podcast, but our class met every day except for one day a week. So we met 4 out of 5 days every week. And so you know, I don't know how brothers are meeting these days, but every day. And he was there. Him and Gaston Custer Jr. were there with us every single day, whether it's in the back of his van and he telling us we going over information, or we in the room in the lodge room every single day except for one day we met for that time for all 3 degrees.
Nice.
And so I'm eternally grateful to the brothers of St. John's Lodge number 16, definitely the brothers of Ionic Lodge number 88, and Wilbur Banks. Definitely rest in peace. Love you, brother, as well as Right Worshipful Gaston Custer Jr. So yes, I 100% agree with you right there for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Past Master Freeman, Right Worshipful Freeman, definitely thank you, brother. Thank you so much for just taking the time to be with us today. I've learned even more about you. I know it's been 20 years of knowing you, and this is just another opportunity for me to learn more about you. And I'm glad that we were able to get re-engaged on masonry. It's been too long.
Yes, sir.
looking
Well, I'm
forward to-
available anytime, and
Yes.
let's stay in touch. And I
Absolutely.
appreciate and honored at the work that both of you are doing on this platform. Very important work is to keep the education and enthusiasm alive in our craft.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Matt, make sure that I get his number, because we definitely had to have some conversation about a couple of things he talked about today offline. We have some more time.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. He's on the thread, so you already got him. You already
Yeah,
got
oh
his
yeah, okay.
information
Yeah,
on the
matter of fact,
thread,
yeah,
for
I got
sure.
it. Yeah, I forgot
Definitely.
about
All
that.
right.
Yeah, I got it.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So with that, everyone that's listening right now, we thank you again for listening in and viewing another episode of the Masterful Conversations podcast. Please like, subscribe to the channel. Please share this show, this podcast with anyone who you think would receive value from the information that you receive, whether they are in the craft, in the order, or not affiliated at all. We think that the information and the insights that are shared on our podcast are for leadership in general, and it can be applied across the various spectrums. And so with that, as we always say, the world needs leaders. And leadership starts with being able to lead ourselves. It's impossible for you to lead other people if you cannot lead yourself. So please take the words that you heard today, try to apply at least one thing to your leadership life and your journey. Again, whether you're in the craft or not in the craft. And until the next time, be well. God bless.